I became popular in StarCraft Chapter 171-180. Thank you all for pressing like and follow. It's an encouragement for each other. I apologize for the translation. You can donate at Kasi Corn Bank 025-352-0310. Then let's start. Chapter 171 Puppet Master. The Third Continent Zindu. In a quiet underground place, two men groped forward along the edge. Judging from the semicircular stone roof that looked like a tunnel and the dirty water flowing along the main trunk, this was a drain somewhere in the new capital. The drain in Zindu was well repaired, and there was a concrete walkway 1 person wide built on both sides, which was usually reserved for maintenance personnel. But the clothes of the two men were clearly not maintenance personnel. They wore rubber gloves and tattered work clothes. There was a basket tied behind their backs, and the basket was full of plastic bottles filled with yellow liquid. Only part of the bottles were full, and there were many empty bottles that were not full. It seemed that they were all goods that they had just discovered. Even in summer, the drain was bone-chillingly cold. The smell and the cold air made people feel very uncomfortable. The man walking behind looked at the darkness in front of him and shivered violently. Brother! Brother, why don't we go here? Look, there's oil everywhere. Where to pour it, does it matter? His voice was not loud, but it echoed far away along with the water in the tunnel. I know, fart. The older brother scolded from the front. The further you go, the clearer the color becomes. It's hard to see, you know. What are you muttering about? I don't want to do it anymore. Do it, don't refuse. The man sighed and followed his older brother closely. The more he walked, the more he muttered in his heart. He pursed his nose hard. Brother, do you smell blood? The smell of blood in the sewer is normal? I said, 6th, it's not the first day you went down the well with me. Why? Today? So much? No, brother. I smelled it, I really smelled blood. Big brother stopped walking, crossed his hips, and sniffed hard a few times. Well, don't tell me the smell is really strong. I guess some restaurants will slaughter a few more animals. After that, big brother. Just to prove his point of view, he pointed to the dry bones not far away that rose and fell with the current. Look, it should be a cow or a pig. The younger brother, Lao Lu, became more and more frightened. The more he looked, the more he looked. Animal blood. Okay, look at your panicked expression, you are really useless. The eldest brother looked at the 6th child with disdain. Then let's go. You are here today, I will go there. Lao Lu sighed in relief, quickly put the basket behind him on the ground, pinched his nose, and poured the empty bottle towards the oil foam at the edge of the water. He tried his best to ignore the half-bone in the water. His hands and feet were particularly agile. The remaining empty bottle was quickly filled up. Lao Lu gathered together, brother, I'm done, you. Lao Lu looked up, and the remaining half of the words stopped at his lips. The eldest brother's basket was still placed at the edge of the water not far away, but that person was gone. You, don't scare me, big brother, big brother. Lao Lu shouted a few words bravely, but there was no reply, and the sound echoed in the hollow of the large tunnel. In the basket on the left, there were more than half of the empty bottles. Lao Lu's heart trembled, his body trembled a few times, and he was about to turn around and leave when the scene in front of him scared him too much to speak. A shadow emerged from the darkness. This shadow was messy and looked like a human being, but it was crawling on the ground. Its entire body was covered with a loose robe, its face was covered with messy fur, and its entire body was covered in blood. What scared Lao Lu the most was this thing. There was a severed hand hanging out of its mouth. Hee. Shadow sneered. Ah, ghost, ghost. The 6th child was shocked to the core. He didn't want the stolen oil. He threw the basket on his back, turned around, and ran away. Unfortunately, the shadow's speed was faster than his, and there was a strong force coming from behind him, and he was dragged into the darkness while screaming. The dark sewage was quiet again. Then, a man's voice broke the silence of the place. You really are not a picky eater. A man appeared at the spot where the 6th child had just disappeared. His appearance was very abrupt, his neat ceremonial attire did not match the filth in the sewage. The man's voice was mature and steady, with the arrogance of a commander. On his face was a mask, with a hand pulling a puppet with a string. A rustling sound came from the depths of the darkness. Shadow slowly dragged his broken body, reaching out to brush away the messy hair on his head, revealing a small, bloody face. She was a doll. It seemed that she did not die under Chu Yao's sword. But what method she used to escape from birth was unknown. I want to be picky, so I have to be picky. The doll said indifferently with a strange accent. Why are you here, puppet master? I'm here to inform you. The puppeteer replied indifferently. There is an order from the Lord, all the inner members sent to Kukai are to return immediately. Come back? It's really interesting. The doll tilted her head, and a blood scab fell down from her head. This is really a once-in-a-century event. Let me guess, could it be that the old soul above has parted ways with the alliance of heaven and man? I came here to inform you. Don't be indifferent. We are colleagues. Remember our old relationship. My dear colleagues, can you tell me the truth? Wan winked at each other. The puppet master remained silent. Down, down, down. What disappointment! Vava made a displeased face. What else? You came here just to inform me about this. Besides, the organization will punish you. He flinched and was about to step back when his eyes blurred. The puppeteer took out an exquisite musical instrument that looked like a round mirror in his hand, and a cone of blue light emitted from the mirror instantly covered the doll's body. Ah, damn it! How could she have something like this? My spiritual power! A piercing scream rang out from the doll's throat. Under the influence of the blue light, her body stopped moving, and all her movements were sealed. The puppeteer stretched out his fingers. Amidst the blue light, an extremely thin silver thread appeared in midair. Puppet Master! Why do you have the right to punish me? We are equal. Even the punishment does not depend on you. No, I just got promoted yesterday. The puppet master swung his fingers, along with the light, blood, and the doll's howling. One of her arms was cut off, and after spinning a few times in midair, it quickly fell onto the wet ground. Don't forget our commandment, exposing is a criminal offense. The puppet master gently took back the silver-threaded weapon in his hand, and his indifferent tone showed no ups and downs. My hand. Do you know how much blood I spent to repair it? You have to pay me. If there is another time, you will not only want your hand. This is a warning from the Lord. The puppet master pulled out the instrument in his hand, and the doll fell to the ground with a pained face. After he finished speaking, his body disappeared from the spot. His departure was as sudden as sobbing. The little girl panted heavily, her face twisted and ugly. She quickly returned her severed hand. You guys bullied me, you bullied me. Just you wait, you will pay. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 172, Detoxification. The third continent, east of Liberty City, suburb. In a dilapidated wooden house, Zhao Li circled around the table repeatedly, anxious like ants on a hot pot. His face looked flustered and gloomy at times, and his right hand, which was holding the phone tightly, turned white from exertion for a long time. Answer the phone. Why didn't you answer the phone? He kept repeating this sentence, but there was only a reply of can't answer the phone on the other end. Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door from outside. Zhao Li was so shocked that he almost jumped out of the window. My master, it's me. He was quite relieved when he heard the visitor's voice, and he pushed the door open nervously. A middle-aged man in his 50s walked in, his temples slightly white, his eyes red, and his face looked exhausted. This man was his driver. Master, the house is destroyed. The Lady May. The man's words made Zhao Li's heart sink to the bottom of the valley. After escaping the villa that night, he drove all the way to escape, finally getting rid of the pursuers behind him. And hiding in this dilapidated house on the outskirts of Liberty City. It's gone, it's all gone. Zhao Li muttered these few words in despair, and sat down on the chair with a dejected look on his face. He had always followed his mother's orders, and he would do what Lu Yun said. Now that his mother was gone, he didn't know what to do. My lord, I'm stupid, so I can't say anything to comfort him. But since I'm dead. The man slowly walked to Zhao Li's side, reaching out as if to pat him on the shoulder. But suddenly, a terrifying sword light appeared on his sleeve. Looking at Zhao Li, who was bowing his head and saying nothing, the man's eyes showed a fierceness. He gripped the dagger tightly and stabbed it towards his neck. However, when the dagger was about to touch Zhao Li's body, the man found that he couldn't swing it anymore. The dagger seemed to be frozen in midair, and he couldn't move even with all his strength. An ordinary mortal dares to covet an immortal. Zhao Li looked up and saw the man's shocked face. With a wave of his hand, the man vomited blood, fell to the ground, and stopped breathing after a while. Idiot! Zhao Li took a deep breath. The subordinate's defection had sobered him up a lot. This guy has been with me for a long time, so it shouldn't be the Mao Yi company's secret business. It seems that this guy is trying to make money. He is really pushing down the wall. The sadness in his stomach turned into a boundless fire of anger, which burned more and more in his heart. Mother is dead. Thank you, Chu Rumor. Senior Chu, you shouldn't have let me go. Just wait and see, I will make you pay 1,000 times more. Just as he was making up his mind, another mobile phone in his pocket rang, and he picked it up. Xiao Zhao, I rushed here. Can you work overtime today? No problem, Boss Gao, I'll be there right away. Zhao Li changed his tone and replied as calmly as possible. Putting down the phone, he picked up the formula, and after a flash of inspiration, he became another person, whose appearance was much more mature than before. Xiao Zhao opened the door, and after indicating the direction, he walked towards the station not far away. But what he didn't know was that there was a figure following him from far behind. Third continent, Xindu Airport. The special plane hired by the Mao Yi company crash-landed at the designated location. The door opened, and Bai Yuejian and Lu Xiao walked down the stairs. This was the first time the little girl had boarded a plane, and she was overjoyed. Although she had the status of a monk, she was only 17 years old. Master, in the future, will I be able to fly in the sky like this? Of course, if you become a golden core, you can fly in the air without having to use the magic weapon. The two talked, and the car parked not far away. When seeing the person who picked up the plane, Bai Yuejian's mouth corner couldn't help but curl up. It was Gong Xiaoran and Su Binger, both of whom were her acquaintances. It was always a pleasure to meet old friends abroad. Bai Yuejian had no choice but to feel that her sister was really capable, able to bring so many people back. Senior White, you've worked hard all this way. Gong Xiaoran saluted. I will never forget the kindness that saved my life in the past. Fellow Daoist Gong, welcome. You and I are old acquaintances, and I, your sister, am also your best friend. There's no need to see each other like this. Also, call me by my real name. Then I'll take the liberty. Gong Xiaoran smiled slightly. It's not too much. It's late. Why don't we get in the car first and talk while walking? Okay. Compared to Gong Xiaoran's calmness, Su Binger looked a little cramped. After everyone got in the car and exchanged a few brief greetings, they drove along Princess Yes route. She dared to joke with Chu Yao, but she was a little scared when facing Bai Yuejian. Many people had heard of this old man Ling Xian in Tianyan sect's Shenlong, but had never seen him. The sports car sped on the flying track around the tall building. Lu Xiao kept looking at the bustling scenery outside the car window, her eyes sparkling. Is it your first time riding a fast car, little sister? Hi. I've only seen it on TV before. Why is there a building that looks like a hammer over there? That is the branch office of RC, a business partner. Binger took the initiative to introduce Xiao. Seeing that the two started talking, Gong Xiaoran and Bai Yuejian looked at each other and smiled. Bai Yuejian thought for a moment, then said softly, Sister Xiaoran, I don't know what happened to my little sister. Gong Xiaoran smiled meaningfully, and explained the grievances between Chu Yao and Lu Yun. Lu Yun is a two-faced person, 3 hands, and her mind is not right. She ended up like this because she was self-satisfied. Bai Yu saw that the subject had changed. You just said that younger sister. She was poisoned, how are her symptoms? This. Gong Xiaoran seemed to have intended to say something. As soon as she came back, we asked us to lock her in a dark room. No one was allowed to approach, and we did not know the specific situation. Is there any movement? No. No. She has been here for 3 days, and she has not heard a word. There is no news. Everyone is very anxious. Bai Yuejian nodded seriously. No wonder Gong Xiaoran and the others were eager to find out for themselves. Soon, a sports car arrived at Princess Ye's door. Bai Yuejian saw more and more familiar faces. After greeting them one by one, they arrived at the door of the dark room without stopping. Closing his eyes slightly, his spiritual sense instantly penetrated through the locked iron door, sweeping across the room, and saw Chu Yao curled up into a ball on the ground. Bai Yuejian's heart tightened. She couldn't imagine what kind of pain her younger sister had endured. Don't worry, sister is here to save you. Bai Yuejian arrived at the center of the dark room without using a key, using a slight wall drilling technique. As soon as she landed and stood firm, Chu Yao turned into a black shadow and rushed towards her. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 173 Detoxification. Bai Yuejian's eyes froze, and she silently summoned a protective aura of her body. Her current cultivation was at the late foundation establishment stage. Although she was slightly taller than Chu Yao, she did not dare to be careless when facing her little sister's attack. When Bai Yuejian thought that the poison had corroded Chu Yao's consciousness, she realized that there was something wrong with her appearance. Chu Yao did not seem to be attacking herself, but was lying lightly on the semicircular aura, her widened eyes showing confusion. Huh? Seeing that Bai Yu's eyebrows were furrowed, she temporarily unlocked the protective aura of her body. The second after the aura dissipated, Chu Yao was wrapped in her body. Bai Yuejian wanted to retreat, but Chu Yao moved too fast and hugged her tightly, not letting go. The little sister in her arms was like a small volcano. Bai Yu saw that Chu Yao's eyes were slightly blurry, and she didn't know where to look. Her hands were still fiddling with her clothes. She looked up and was about to bite her face. Bai Yuejian turned her head away from her sister's kissing attack in shock. It turned out to be this kind of poison. Then Lu Yun really had a malicious intent. Bai Yuejian tried to push her away, but the girl's strength was getting stronger and stronger, and she was about to push herself down, pulling her clothes while pushing. Calm down! Bai Yuejian roared, and the divine consciousness passed through Chu Yao's body. Chu Yao's body trembled suddenly, and finally, his eyes became clear again. But after recovering for a few seconds, he was confused again, and he charged at Bai Yuejian again like a hungry tiger looking for food. A white light flashed in the pitch-black room. Bai Yu saw her body lighten and float back, easily dodging the bomb. She pondered for a moment, then flashed behind Chu Yao at an extremely fast speed, and used her fingers to count the scores on Chu Yao's body. Chu Yao, who had exhausted her strength, fell to the ground again. Bai Yuejian sent out a wave of spiritual energy to lift Chu Yao up, and at the same time, she crossed her legs in front of her, forming a seal with her hands, and sent her spiritual energy to help detoxify. The days passed quietly. In the dark burning room, the two were sweating, and their clothes were soaked with sweat. The sitting position had been taken care of for a long time. Under Bai Yuejian's methods, Chu Yao's face finally returned to its former calmness. Heh! Bai Yu breathed a sigh of relief and stopped, quietly looking at the worried sister in front of her. Chu Yao's eyelids moved, and finally opened slowly. Her shining eyes flickered. As she saw her sister's appearance clearly, Chu Yao rushed forward excitedly, and Bai Yuejian thought that she had abandoned the cause of her illness. But this time, she didn't need to block. Chu Yao only took half a step, and then her legs gave way and she fell to the ground. Are you weak? Bai Yuejian poked Chu Yao's forehead with his hand. Although the poison has disappeared, your spirit power has almost reached its lowest point, and the injuries in your body are not serious. And this is the point. I will help you get through it. I don't have much spiritual power and you have to recover it yourself. Hey, sister, my sister, hey, hey. Chu Yao twisted her body and struggled. Dark. It's broken. This child is hopeless. Bai Yujian calmly pulled out a scroll from her clothes, opened it, and silver needles lined up in rows. It seems like a ruthless attack. I'm fine. I'm fine. Seeing the silver needles, Chu Yao was shocked, as if recalling a sad past that could not be recalled. Why are you indifferent? I miss you. In front of her confidant. Only relatives and senior sisters, would Chu Yao act like this? Miss me? Do you want me to help you solve your problems? Bai Yujian pinched Chu Yao's face. If it doesn't happen, I don't know if you've gone crazy. I'm afraid it will take 10 or a half years. I won't be able to find you. There's nothing I can do. Chu Yao smiled innocently. Then, she took out a few spider pills from her storage bag and put them in her mouth. Oh, a storage bag. Bai Yujian became interested. Where did you get these? Chu Yao handed the bottle to her sister and proudly shared their experience after they left. Her sister said, let's not talk about excitement. So, my improved wandering demon killing formation is so powerful. Bai Yujian stroked the hair on her forehead, showing a slightly surprised expression. The missing ghost killing array. Chu Yao finally learned the real name of the improved little Mistral array from her sister. Speaking of formations, Chu Yao suddenly thought of something. By the way, sister, you might not know that I went to the mine in Baishan mine later, she recounted her experience in the unbroken mine after seeing her sister. She also used her spiritual consciousness to simulate the appearance of the formation in her mind. It's as I expected. Bai Yujian's brows showed sadness. Sister, you really know something. Chu Yao cheered. What happened to this large formation? Bai Yujian paused for a moment. The exact name of the formation is unknown, but it can be inferred that this is a large sealing formation passed down from ancient times that combines soul gathering, concealment and sealing. It is formed on the veins and absorbs the aura of heaven and earth to maintain its function. An ancient sealing formation, so it's like this. Chu Yao lay on the ground and thought, counting one in the Baishan mine, there are 7 of them, but this is only what we found, could there be others? Could this be the reason why Ling Yuan star lacks spiritual energy? It should be. That's the case. Bai Yujian nodded. This is why I came to you. Ling Yuan star's spiritual energy, they are almost exhausted. Sooner or later, these large formations will the loss of its impact and its reappearance in the world had already shown the severity of the problem. There will be a great chaos on Ling Yuan star. Great chaos. Chu Yao remembered the great formation at the Baishan mine. An indescribable compulsion, a sense of familiarity still lingered in her heart as she thought about it now. What do you mean, big sister? Go. Go. There is no other way but to go. The size of the formation and the things sealed within it had reached the Jindan nascent soul level or above. You and I had only just recovered to build our foundations. How could we be their opponents in such a short time? And the source of spiritual energy is also rare. After all, it is not a place where we and the other cultivators live. If we want to recover our nascent soul, we must plan early on. Chu Yao fell silent. It was not that she could not distinguish between good and evil, but she was thinking of the cattail company. The company had just settled in Xindu, and it was a time of rapid development. Choosing to leave Ling Yuanxing at this juncture was not wise. After all, their basic market was still the Ling Yuan star market. If he chose to change stars to develop, Chu Yao could imagine how many hardships he would face. Sister, I really don't think you need to worry too much. How could you say that? When the sky falls, there will always be someone higher up to support you. Chu Yao smiled meaningfully. Sister, haven't you seen too much technology from heaven and man? I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 174 Earthquake. Sister, do you know about the magic stone weapon? I've heard of it. What about mini and giant robots? Bai Yujian shook his head. What about fighter jets, nuclear submarines, long-range missiles, and genetic matrices? I understand. A little nuclear weapon. Bai Yujian's face showed a rare confusion. These weapons can defeat monsters of more than 10 floors. Sister, don't forget how we were captured here. The Yalai Company's spaceship can easily capture a nascent soul stage monk, which is more than enough to deal with the monsters. Chu Yao tried to sit up, as if there was too much movement involved in the wound, and he smiled and howled. Is it my illusion? Why do I feel like the ground is shaking? No, I feel it too. Bai Yuejian's expression turned serious, and she carried Chu Yao from behind. A rumbling sound spread out from the depths of the earth. The four walls of the room shook along with the ground, and the sounds from the upper floors could be clearly heard in the dark room. With Chu Yao on her back, Bai Yuejian stabilized her body in the air. Earthquake. Third continent, Liberty City. Not far from the statue of Heaven and Man, a unique cone-shaped building stood in the city, standing out among the large buildings. It was much taller than the statues of Heaven and Man, and all the walls were not straight, but the smooth curved surfaces were bent towards the center, and the sunlight reflected on the smooth glass walls was dazzling. At the tip of the cone, there was a sail logo that had been enlarged several times, standing tall, attracting attention. This was the headquarters of the Yalai Company on the third continent, the Spire Tower. In the spacious circular hall in the tower, 4 or 5 people stood in front of a blue phantom that was several meters high. This blue phantom was a middle-aged man with a large beard. His appearance was projected through the well-built machinery placed in the center of the hall, and he was blowing his beard and staring at something. Gao Yongquan, can you do it? If you can't do it, get out of here. The third-tier planet was arranged by you like this, and it was an uncontrollable robot with psychic powers. Let other companies see ours. What a joke. His voice through the speakers was distorted, but one could still feel the man's anger. Gao Yongquan, the general representative of Ling Yuan Star, who usually stayed away on weekdays, stood in front of the bearded man respectfully, smiling unnaturally. And the other subordinates around him were silent as if they didn't see it. Boss, as you know, the Ling Yuan Star Railroad is about to be opened for traffic. The entire company has invested all its energy into it. Naturally, some kids will take advantage of it. These two things are contradictory. The bearded man glared fiercely, his beard and hair flying with anger. The people from Xingchuo headquarters even asked me to take responsibility. Damn it, the problems caused by your branch are even worse. I'm here to wipe your ass. You can't even control the experimental robot. Never mind. If you can't control it, you can't even control this matter. What's the point of being the public opinion department of your Ling Yuan Star branch? I still trust you. What are you doing? This. Gao Yunguan apologized anxiously and wiped the sweat off his forehead. The Alliance's stabilization force is coming to you soon. You should find these two psychers before they arrive. If you give other companies an excuse to intervene, you know the consequences yourself. The blue image disappeared in. Suddenly, and the hall fell silent. Gao Yongquan sighed in relief, the smile on his face disappeared instantly, and he looked at his subordinates around him seriously. You all know the specific situation, and the priority of this matter will be raised to the highest from now on. No matter what method is used, we must find these two dangerous people. But you Gao, the subordinate said weakly, how are we going to find them? If it's just ordinary people, Yalai Company will find them easily. The question is, are these two people hypnotists or uncontrollable hypnotists? This is an unprecedented disaster. The Ling Yuan Star is very large, and there are billions of people. It can be said to be looking for a needle in a haystack. Everyone here is an expert, so I have to teach you how to find people, right? Gao Yongquan glanced at the subordinate who had just spoken. No matter what the process is, I just need people. I have come this far. Then I don't need to say anything, right? Several ministers understood and nodded one after another. Okay, I'll give you a week. No matter what, you must bring that person to me. Gao Yongquan stepped out of the hall. After walking through the corridor, Gao Yongquan arrived at his office. Several secretaries had been waiting for a long time, and Xiao Zhao was one of them. Xiao Zhao, go to the number 3 archive room at the innermost part of the 9th floor and bring a copy of the documents related to psychers. Hello, Mr. Gao. Zhao Li went to the number 3 archive room after receiving the order and rushed over. Although he was still full of thoughts of revenge, he knew that this matter should not be rushed. What I need to do now is to maintain the position of acting secretary first so that he can gain more power. His current methods were exactly the same as Lu Yun's, using a fake identity to operate within the Yalai Company. It must be said that it worked well. Gao Yongquan probably didn't expect that the psychopath he was looking for so long was right in front of his eyes. Zhao Li stopped thinking and started using the computer in the archive room. The door behind him seemed to close a little slower, but he didn't notice. A mysterious man sneaked in through the doorway. As soon as he stepped into the archive room, an alarm bell rang within the spire tower. Discovered? The man stopped in his tracks, his feet shaking, and he felt the impact from the ground. Zhao Li in front of him was shocked by the siren as he suddenly ran out in panic, completely ignoring his work. The two walked past, and the man's gaze fell on Zhao Li, but the other party did not respond, and he did not notice the invisible man. After Zhao Li's back disappeared at the end of the corridor, the man sighed in relief, stepped into the archive room, and stared at the computer screen in front of him. Search for the Shinik entrance. He whispered the words on the screen. When he saw that there were no surveillance on the surrounding walls, he lifted the weight, revealing a young face. It was Yao Han. According to Chu Yao's instructions, he had been secretly following Zhao Li since the moment Zhao Li escaped from the villa, to find out if there were other forces behind the mother and son, to avoid future trouble. Yao Han thought that he was going to be exposed now, but Zhao Li was also careless. He did not know that they were so close. He was working on computers. There were 63 documents related to Shinik energy in the third archive room. According to the index, Yao Han could easily find all the documents on the shelves in the archive room. These documents were not very extensive. They were studies on psychic energy. And there were also the production of weapons and medicines. Yao Han found the most important document among the 63 documents, the list. He found the list on the file shelf and held it in his hand. The document was heavier than his head. Yao Han glanced at it. The list had developed Ling Yuan star to the point where almost all the savages who had become ring slaves were recorded. Those whose names were written with their names, and those whose names were not, were recorded with their photos. The list seemed to be constantly being updated. New ones were added, old and new whiteboards were mixed together, and even some of the riots in the past few years were recorded. Yao Han was lost in thought. With so many documents, he couldn't take them all, so he could only select the more valuable ones. Looking at the thick list in front of him, his hand lit up. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 175, A Storm is Coming. Spiritual star Ya Ziyuhe. On the surface of the sparkling sea, it was as calm as ever. On a sandbar not far from the sea, a pair of grandparents were fishing with nets. Their movements were quite skillful and they had been in this business for many years. The grandfather was in charge of pulling the nets and the grandson was in charge of catching fish. Several barrels were loaded on the small boat. Master, why are these fish acting so silly today? They were slamming the nets desperately. The dark-skinned young man wiped the sweat off his body with a towel. Although it was hard work, his eyes were filled with excitement. Isn't it enough to eat for months? Hey, why aren't you talking, sir? The young man looked up and saw the old man standing at the bow of the boat, and he stopped in his tracks. The old man was in his 70s, his body was still strong, his skin was firm, and the wrinkles around his eyes were proof of his years of wandering at sea. At this moment, the old man who had been defeated by the weather was staring at the distant sea. His eyes were as calm as the sea water, and his eyes seemed to be directed towards the other end of the sea. What's wrong, master? The young man asked the old man curiously while he was busy. Grandson, let's go home. Go home. The young man looked at him in disbelief. How many nets can you catch? How many fish do you have? Catch with your life. The old man trembled, shook his head, he began to prepare to drop the anchor. Wind and rain are coming, wind and rain are coming. Wind and rain are coming. The young man stared blankly at the sea, the sky was cloudless, what did he mean? But he still did what his grandfather told him. The old man had spent most of his life at sea, and his intuition about the weather was always accurate, so he could only choose to believe it for now. Wind and rain are coming, the old man did not answer, only muttering to himself. The ship headed back to the shore, and the Sea of Yaxia returned to calm, with fish occasionally jumping out of the water, and seagulls circling under the white clouds. Soon, fewer and fewer fish jumped out of the water, the cries of seagulls gradually disappeared, and even the waves slowed down a lot, and the sea became calmer. A group of dark clouds appeared in the sky, and the gaps in the blue sky seemed to be broken, revealing a sky full of stars behind. Dark clouds began to cover every corner of human vision at lightning speed. It really became a starry sky, but there were no stars in this starry sky, only a deep abyss. The sea level began to recede significantly, countless seaweeds and shellfish appeared on the beach, and pieces of small fish were struggling on the parched beach. A gust of wind seemed to float in the distance, the originally clear air began to turn cloudy, and the dark blue mist evaporated into the Yaxiu Sea. If there were still people standing by the sea now, they would definitely see that the sea surface seemed to be rising, and a huge sea wall was forming amidst the storm that was attacking the seaside city, frantically devoured everything. Residents near the coast of Yaxiu on the third continent received a warning message on their mobile phones from the Ocean Bureau of Yalai Company, informing them that a tsunami was coming. But it wasn't just a tsunami. Within the dozens of meters high wall of water, a huge black shadow appeared. It looked like a giant whale was swimming in the waves, no matter where it went. The raging waves seemed to pierce through the sky. A seat of a large fish carcass emerged from the waves. It was a real whale, and it had died of unknown causes at this moment. Around it, there were dense fish carcasses, both small and large, swelling like weeds on the surging world. The blood and surging waves together created a symphony called death. The tsunami made a hole, and the body of the whale leapt into the air with a huge amount of white foam. Its body was broken into two pieces with a violent force. Its organs flew under the black clouds, and red blood rain fell on the sea. It was provoked. Finally, the dark shadow that appeared revealed its true body from under the tsunami. This was a giant worm-like monster. The first thing that caught the eye was its huge body, looking like a centipede that had been enlarged 1,000 times, and its twisted body looked like a twisted black lightning. It had no eyes, or ordinary people would not be able to see its eyes at all. The head of this centipede had only a large mouth with sharp teeth, and there were pieces of meat mixed in the twisted sharp teeth. It was chewing half of the whale's body. It flew. What drove it to fly were the dozens of meat wings on its back. Those meat wings were very short, and compared to its huge body, it did not look like a long snake with bee wings, but these short bee wings allowed it to fly over the sea. The centipede swallowed the last few large pieces of meat into its mouth, and after flying in a semicircle over the tsunami, it opened its huge mouth and let out a roar like the roar of tigers and dragons. Bubbles began to appear on the sea surface, and the size of the bubbles changed from small to large. All around, the sea seemed to be boiling, and waves of air were occurring. Large and small shadows appeared under the sea surface, and countless insect-like monsters crawled out of the sea. Some looked like spiders, some looked like praying mantises, and some looked no different from that giant centipede, only slightly smaller. Winged beasts flew into the sky along with centipedes. More and more insects and monsters were mixed in the waves that filled the sky and the fish carcasses that covered the sky and the earth. These ferocious monsters waved their limbs, opened their mouths wide, and let out a thunderous roar along with the giant centipede. The sky seemed to have opened a crack, but the dark clouds did not disappear, and a mad roar formed in the clouds, which was the precursor to thunderstorms and heavy rain. In all continents of Ling Yuan Star, all the cultivators hiding in the darkness trembled. Ordinary people probably did not feel anything. But these cultivators with great intelligence felt the boundless pressure reverberating around them as the crowd roared. In Princess Ye, the four priests, Chu Yao, Bai Yu Jian, Lu Xiao Ye, and Gong Xiao Ran, at the same time, their inner spiritual power was turbulently circulating. Chu Yao and her sister looked at each other, and both of them saw the horror in each other's eyes. Senior sister, could it be? I didn't expect it to be so fast. Bai Yu saw her furrowed eyebrows with great worry. This spiritual pressure is beyond what a nascent soul can reach. They walked out of the dark room. Lu Xia rushed over in a panic. Gong Xiaoran and Chen Qingye followed behind. The others in the company didn't understand what happened. They just thought it was an ordinary earthquake, and they were still busy with their own matters after the earthquake. Inform everyone in the gang outside to return to Princess Ye immediately. Chu Yao's face was solemn, and he unconsciously used the nickname in the gang, and the anxiety inside was obvious. All the weapons and vehicles on board are ready. The group chat gave an order, and this was the company's first large-scale operation since the Dark Street War. Brother Chu, it seems like it's more than just an earthquake. The internet has exploded. Su Huahua hugged Xiaonan and swept her phone aside. Many people looked shocked. Chu Yao glanced over, and countless keywords grabbed the Universal Star Expo's hot search list. Earthquake, tsunami, volcanic eruption, insect-shaped monster, Zerg siege. King Yu, see if you can contact Zhonglu and Dayan in Erlu. Xia Huo, continue to pay attention to the latest information on the critical situation of Yalai Company, and tell me in time if there is any news. Everyone looked anxious, started working as if facing an enemy. She still didn't know what to do. It was such a coincidence that all these bad things happened to me. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 176 Chaos in the Star Sea. In the vast space a vast group of light orange galaxies hangs upside down in the vast Milky Way. Around the 2.7 million kilometers red-orange sun, 20 or 30 planets of different sizes and colors orbit in elliptical orbits. Between the planets, rays of light like meteorites alternately scatter. They are countless spaceships and star trains flying between the stars. They shuttle and linger among the countless aircraft carriers and interstellar space stations, adding a hustle and bustle to the original isolation. Space, which is 0.7 light-years away from the Kukai galaxy, the base camp of the civilizations of heaven and man, the Dragon Earth galaxy. Above the orbit of the fourth planet around the Sun, there is a blue planet that is particularly eye-catching. Two straight silver-white pipes protrude from both sides, which are two space elevators. At the end of the space elevator is a space station with a circular cabin stacked on top of each other. A small continent. From one angle, it looks like a little girl with two silver pigtails is upside down. Previously called Yuz, now called Tianrengzing, the headquarters of the Tianren Alliance were located. In the center of the largest red Earth continent on the celestial star, a magnificent house stood in the middle of a bustling city. In the giant house that could hold 10,000 people, there were voices talking, countless figures moving around amidst the seats were packed, and everyone rushed in and out with anxious looks. Above their heads, dozens and hundreds of small robots were flying in midair. They looked like large birds with computer faces. Many of the large birds had red lights flashing on their heads, and various sirens were emitted from the speakers. Whether it was pedestrians or machines, they all had a common goal, the pavilion in the center of the room and under the high walls. On the several-meter-high wall, the statues of winged celestial beings were particularly eye-catching under the spotlight. Directly below the logo of Heaven and Man, more than 10 politicians in formal attire sat behind the semi-arched pavilion, and a transparent holographic projection screen continued to appear on the precision machinery around them. These large and small square screens were stacked on top of each other. At the same time, the dozens of people sitting on the pavilion seemed to be in a blue beam of light. Every time a blue screen appeared, there will be terrifying news. Yuanying Company issued a warning, and Zerg riots occurred on the two planets of the Moon and Swanyan, and the Yuanying authorities have issued a first-level natural disaster, a red alert, requesting the Allied forces to intervene for reinforcement. Qiandao City in the Waveless Sea has collapsed. The 7th and 10th Mechanical Squadrons of the Allied forces have gone to reinforcement. The swarm of insects has broken out in several places on Guam. The unit has submitted a request to the Grand Council for approval to support the movement of the nearby Iron Dome fleet. The communication between the air-sea system is connected. We can now confirm the planets where the swarms broke out: Clark Star, Wanderer Star, and Iron Curtain Star under the Air-Sea Business Alliance, Ling Yuan under the Yalai Company Star, Spirit Tomb Star, Lu Yexing, a subsidiary of Nord Company. Similar sirens sounded endlessly, and they were interlocked with the sounds of telephones and the warnings of the machines in the hall without stopping, causing the chaos in the room to reach its peak. Steel Dome is used to bomb the antimatter Star Destroyer. What did you just say? In the middle of the pavilion, a bald man who was too busy stared at the messenger in front of him with wide eyes. Eyes. Steel Dome. The messenger repeated to the bald man while holding a portable holographic computer. Disapproved. What kind of joke is this Steel Dome lunatic playing? What are they doing taking human lives for? The bald man shouted angrily, then turned to look at the multiple screens in front of him. Behind him, a tall old man patted him on the shoulder with a fake smile, then turned to the young man in charge of communications. What's the goal? The old man smiled and let the young man retreat to sit beside the bald man. Why are you so irritable? At least the people from Steel Dome will inform us. You, the old ghost who came out of the second row, are the only one in the entire house who can still make a little sarcasm, the bald man replied without looking up. Can't you see how urgent the situation is right now? If you have time to talk to me, how about going to the front line of Qiandao City to command the mechanical forces? Can you say that you are their former leader too? The old man shook his head. I don't have that power anymore. Then, he was only halfway through when a red screen suddenly appeared in front of everyone. On the continuous blue screen, this bright red was dazzling. The noisy Parliament Hall fell silent for a moment, and everyone's eyes were fixed on it. There were only 5 words written on it: Gambay Star has lost contact. A cold warning voice rang in everyone's ears, along with the message, Lian is gone. The bald man's voice trembled. Where is the nearby Steel Dome fleet? Haven't they been approved for assistance? They are a step too late, the young man who was in charge of contact just now replied weakly. The senior executives of the Steel Dome Company have sent out a request for assistance. The Alliance has issued an ultimatum. He read the message on the screen in front of him in disbelief. Our company has lost confidence in the Alliance's support capabilities and will take forced measures to deal with the Zerg crisis on our planet. For any problems that may arise during the crisis, our company will take full responsibility. It's good that you will take full responsibility. The bald man laughed angrily. The Steel Dome Company will betray its allies. The old man spoke first. They are. However, the warning letter from the Steel Dome Company was only the beginning of this chaos. After the news of Gom's loss of contact arrived, the red windows opened continuously, and almost everyone brought bad news. The number of people in the Parliament Hall doubled, and the speed at which the members discussed the plan was not even as fast as the warning signal. Even at such a critical juncture, these members of the Parliament were quarreling fiercely. Every aid bill was being investigated from various angles. It was almost impossible to unite. Some were anxious, some looked coldly, simply because the world his family's business was in was not serious. The reason why the company's representative refused to support turned out to be that he could not afford to pay for such a large amount of fuel. The bald man's eyes were bloodshot and he slumped into the chair behind him. The red color made him almost stop breathing. When did these Zerg, these rare survivors of a planet, lurk on these planets? With the huge number of Zerg, how long have they been hiding? Hundreds of years? Thousands of years? Why has no one discovered them for so long? Since the birth of the civilizations of heaven and man, they have developed smoothly. More than 2,000 years. For more than 2,000 years, they have occupied planets, developed galaxies, and explored the sea of stars. They have traveled the sky in spaceships built with advanced technology, and have long considered themselves the masters of this universe. They think of themselves as noble and arrogant, and they have set their sights on the end of the universe. But looking back, he found that his fleet could not even defeat the insects. Corporations fighting each other, a cumbersome military system, slow developing interdepartmental communication, and members of parliament with their own opinions. The reasons are complicated. All sorts of things are intertwined to create this hopeless chaos. It's time to let go, Your Excellency Prime Minister. The old man patted the bald man on the shoulder again. You and I expected such a disaster to happen to the Alliance, right? It's just this insect. The plague brought it a little earlier. The old man's face gradually lost its smile, and his eyes darkened. The bald Prime Minister glanced at him, and supported himself up from his chair with both hands. The red light continued to flicker. And everyone's eyes were fixed on him alone. Someone stood up, shouting something as if to oppose the motion he was about to propose. But he didn't hear it, or he didn't care about these people. Everyone present looked at his red eyes, which contained pain and despair, as well as an invisible trace of pity. Everyone, the Prime Minister said in a trembling voice, the Alliance fleet is limited, and we can no longer save the entire planet. It's time to make a decision. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 177, The New Capital's Calamity. Swarms of insects spread across Ling Yuan planet. The gathering cities of the western third continent were destroyed under the ravages of the Zerg. The former Sunset Bay was reduced to ruins, becoming the true sunset of heaven and man. The small desert between Sunset Bay and Zindu became the main battlefield between the troops of Yalai Company and the Swarm. To the west of the desert, thousands of Zerg emerged from the seabed. The density was enough to make you stunned. From a distance, you could see all the Zerg, and you couldn't see the colors of the world at all. In front of them was a company of combat robots, fighter planes, and small combat spacecraft flying around at low altitudes. These large robots, controlled by people inside, use laser weapons and missiles to create iron fences, and they form the first line of defense to protect the city. The location where the swarms originated was too close to the major cities of the third continent, limited by the power of large weapons. For the safety of the city and its citizens, the Yalai Company could only use forces suitable for close combat to eliminate those disgusting Zerg. After the robots, fighters, and spacecraft, there were many armed helicopters flying Dragon, main battle tanks along and armored vehicles loaded with various artillery weapons. They were the second line of defense to protect the city. They were the main force in this war, as robots and fighters were often used to contain the big guys in the swarm, and the remaining large Zerg were their opponents. Behind the helicopters and tanks were the Yalai Company's infantry units. These uniformed soldiers were armed with pulse rifles, electric grenades, and handheld mortars. These uniformed soldiers formed a human wall on the mountain in a dense formation. They were the third line of defense, tasked with dealing with those who survived the missiles and artillery, the fish that slipped through the nets. Behind the infantry unit, a wall of lasers shot up on the outskirts of Zindu. It was the Yalai Company's whole card and the city's final line of defense. Its scientific name was the High Power Magic Beam Defense Array. This was a laser weapon blessed by magic stones. It sounded complicated, but its structure was actually very simple. A flying robot floating in the sky projected this high-intensity magic laser beam vertically to the ground, forming a beam of light that could burn anything. Many similar robots were arranged horizontally on the same horizontal line in the sky, forming a beam of light. Outside the city. The wall. From the outside, the entire city seemed to be trapped in a laser prison. Outside the prison, guns and gunfire were everywhere, and insects were screeching. Giant iron warriors tangled with those beasts in the endless insect sea, and the swooping fighter jets dropped numerous missiles under the clouds. Several missiles exploded amidst the swarm of insects, and a series of flames appeared. The sky was filled with gunpowder smoke. Amputated limbs and insect stumps were swirling in the air with disgusting dark green blood. These Zerg didn't just bite at close range. For example, the swarm of spiders that Chu Yao had seen before, the poison they spit out could even corrode the outer shell of the robot. The robot warrior met this disaster. After he dodged the giant centipede's large mouth in front of him, he was stomped by dozens of small flying centipedes. Black smoke rose from the corrosion, and the fangs of countless Zergs with large bodies instantly disappeared. Before he died, he activated the robot's self-destruct device, turning it into a ball of fire and dying along with the Zerg around him. By quarantining the machines and warships, several giants temporarily stopped in their tracks, but the trouble continued. Fighters and tanks galloped between the sky and the ground, firing non-stop, and the huge swarm of insects disappeared in a terrifying explosion, and the ground was almost dyed green. However, their numbers did not decrease, and in no time the infantry units in the third defense line slowly began to fight against those insects that slipped through the net, even to the point of contact. Outside the light wall, the swarm of insects was like a stream, and spears were like rain. Above the ground, a groaning sound was heard, blood flowing like a river. These insects had no brains, they only knew how to be careless, and fighting alone was no match for pulse rifles and electric bombs. But there were too many. Too many. The Ari Company troops had managed to hold off almost all of the Zerg, but keeping them all out of the light wall was still an almost impossible task. Some of the Zerg had already passed through the infantry units and entered the new capital's light wall, continuously attacking with their flesh and blood. The smell of burnt flour floated in the air with the wind, and green stains were in the light. The lines outside the wall were their blood. The battle situation was tense outside the light wall, and inside the light wall, it was not good. The villagers living in the suburbs frantically dragged their families and fled inside. The streets were filled with people who wanted to escape. The target was Liberty City. Liberty City, located in the center of the third continent, had another light wall. If Zindu fell, it would be the last line of defense. On the elevated roads and even on the flight path, all kinds of vehicles were crowded together, all of which were squeezed together and crawling forward at a slow speed. Yalai Company's traffic control tried its best to make it easier, but it still couldn't do it. What was the result? Sports cars and pedestrians were noisy, and the tall buildings that the Zindu people were proud of had become a wall preventing them from leaving. The screams finally became the last straw that crushed the people. Under the severe impact of the swarm of insects, one or two finally squeezed in from the light wall, and their fierce mouths let out heart-pounding howls. Insects, insects are coming, run! Run, run, we are going to die! A series of screams and shouts rang out in the crowd like a domino effect, and these screams woke up the large crowd with a butterfly effect. Everyone rushed forward in desperation, looking for a chance to survive in the crowded city. Every bus, subway, train, bus stop was quickly filled with people, and the fleeing citizens were about to overflow these means of transportation, and the traffic in the city was almost paralyzed. With such a large number of people and disorder, panic was inevitable, and piercing screams could be heard everywhere. Desperately, ambulances could not drive in at all, and they were blocked by the seaside road. Of the people, I could not move an inch. There were hit and runs, and of course, there were people who took advantage of this situation. Battles, thefts, and robberies began to flood the city. The criminals who fished in these troubled waters were doing these crazy things openly, making the city that was already on the verge of collapse even more chaotic. There was a lot of bloodshed, and in the midst of the brawls, the dead appeared. These people did not die under the mouths of worms, but fell into the same type of cannibalism. In fact, the few Zerg that had just arrived had been eliminated by the Law Enforcement Bureau's armed group, and the danger had been temporarily eliminated. The Law Enforcement Bureau had already informed the residents through the official media. But the impact was minimal. Here is the impact of another group of people who caused chaos. Street influencers of all sizes and shapes held selfie sticks, attracting attention in jaw-dropping ways. Some smashed shops with others, some didn't mind filming the bloodshed, some got close to the firewall to take pictures of nearby insect carcasses, and some wore Zerg-like clothes and terrified passers-by in the streets and alleys. The worst thing was that at this juncture, there were also people live-streaming their goods against the backdrop of the fleeing crowd, selling pesticides and insecticides, and many people even ordered them. The videos they took were quickly forwarded and shared on Fiyu and Fidion, but the official announcement video of Yalai Company was not prominent. This was a natural disaster that could not be overcome by manpower, and it was also a joke full of sarcasm and laughter, or a party of desperate people. On a tall building not far away, two women stood quietly on the roof, watching the chaos. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 178 Words. On the rooftop, Chu Yao and Bai Yuejian looked at each other silently. Sister, what do you think is the chance of winning for Yalai Company? Bai Yuejian looked at the tall light wall in the distance. His gaze seemed to pierce through those lasers, and he saw the frontline battlefield. Nascent soul giant beasts and above. There are 4 of them in total. Fortunately, they have not cultivated any intelligence. Judging from the actions of the robots and spacecraft, Yalai Company should be able to handle them easily. Bai Yuejian paused for a moment. But now, those high-level monsters are not the key. The key lies in the endless sea of insects. There are too many of them. With this light wall, those planes and tanks, I don't think it will last for a few days. If Yalai Company has no other way in the future, what awaits us is the same ending as that soldier. Chu Yao looked in the direction her sister was stretching. When her finger reached out, and not far from the light wall, a single soldier was thrown down by several Zerg and became food in their stomachs. Yes, but I don't know when they will attack. Chu Yao received important information from Yao Han, who was hiding in the Yalai Company not long ago. The Yal Company I seemed to be preparing weapons to counter the Zerg, but needed time. All the staff of the Mao Yi company gathered at Princess Ye because Chu Yao and the others responded promptly, and the company had prepared a large number of fast cars and buses in advance. But where could they go? There was another way, that is to escape in a spaceship, and some people had already started to do so. The few small and medium-sized passenger spaceships on Ling Yuan Star were all in the hands of those large companies. In addition, there were only a few spaceships in the hands of the Yalai company, which could be used to transport refugees. But with so many citizens, whether they could save them or not, and how to save them, the decision-making power was in the hands of the senior executives of the Yalai company. Chu Yao and Bai Yuejian's mobile phones beeped at the same time. Chu Yao opened it, and this was a video speech from Gao Yongquan, the general representative of Ling Yuanxing, sent to all citizens' mobile phones through a message: Dear residents and friends of Ling Yuanxing, I am the general manager of Ling Yuanxing, Yalai company. Gao Yongquan. Looking at his eyebrowless face and talking, Chu Yao also recalled the day he first met him at the Liberty City Chamber of Commerce. Currently, our world is facing unprecedented crises and challenges. The terrifying Zergs are destroying our home. Hey, why is my phone frozen? Chu Yao tapped on the screen in confusion. Use mine. Bai Yujian moved closer, and the two of them approached each other. Our brave fighters will fight until the last second. Everyone, please watch. The screen flashed, and the screen in front of them seemed to turn black. Then, the two of them saw an exciting scene on the small mobile phone screen. Under the Milky Way, countless spaceships floated in the universe like a swarm of bees. This is our Yalai company's support fleet. Early tomorrow morning, they will reach the spirit source and punish the foolish Zerg accordingly. Residents, friends, and family members, please don't lose hope. Don't listen to rumors. Everything is still under the control of the company. Please believe that the Yalai spaceships and Iron Cavalry will eventually conquer everything. Now, I hope everyone can calm down and cooperate with the nearby law enforcement agencies. Public security offices and bureaus and report to emergency shelters are approaching. Unnecessary panic will not solve the problem. Remember, we are proud celestial beings, and no alien race in this universe can defeat us. Proud heavenly God. Hearing this, Rumor Shu stuck out his tongue. It seems that people from Yalai company are planning to fight these big bugs. Someone has to rise up to please the people now. Seeing the end of the video, Bai Yuejian hung up the phone. This should stabilize the chaotic situation in the city to some extent. Oh, I made a mistake. I should have grabbed the spaceship sooner, so I wouldn't have ended up where I am now. Chu Yao pouted helplessly and stretched her waist. Sister, why don't we find out which company's spaceship is still hidden? No, I'm starting to trust the Yalai company. How do you think? Do you really believe this tall, fat man? Because right now, the reason for the tense battle situation is mostly because the incident happened suddenly, and the Yalai company couldn't deploy its troops reasonably. The eldest sister wrote a message on her mobile phone. Look, a swarm of insects came out near the Tianhai city on the first continent, but they unexpectedly won several victories, and the swarms were limited to a small area, which meant that the Yalai troops on the first day of the continent were either well equipped or had more people. As long as the battle situation could reach a temporary stalemate, the Yalai company could mobilize again by determining the number and threat level of the swarms in various places. The problem Zindu was facing now was nothing more than a small number of swarms and insufficient firepower. As long as the firepower increased in the later stages, there was still a chance to fight those worms back to the sea. There was no need for the following fleet reinforcements. If I had known this would happen, why would I have moved? Tianhai City should have been better. Chu Yao stood by the side blowing her hair. You really aren't in a hurry. Bai Yujian smiled and rubbed the back of Chu Yao's head. There's no point in worrying. I can't fight, I can't run, and I can't run. Chu Yao tried to restart her mobile phone. Now I can only believe that Yalai company can defeat these big bugs. It's true. Bai Yuejian nodded. The phone was dead. No matter how Chu Yao played with it, it was useless. She started scanning around with her spiritual sense, rolling her eyes. Big sister, do we want to find out the truth about these monsters? What do you want to do? Bai Yuejian looked at Chu Yao cautiously. Remember, your injuries haven't healed yet. I can't help you no matter what the source of the disease is. Don't worry, big sister. I'm already a half-doctor. I know what my body is like, and we don't have to do anything. Just try. Chu Yao's eyes drifted to those monsters like a bull. Bull. Those spiders are the species I've encountered in the Baishan mine before, but I've never seen any others. Bai Yuejian nodded after thinking for a while. Alright, maybe we'll find these bugs in the future beasts. Early preparations. It's not a bad thing. Hey, smart sister. A sly smile appeared on Chu Yao's face. Then what? Are you sure? The two jumped down from the roof and landed at the same place. In a clearly visible alley. Outside the alley, a group of private security guards from an unknown company walked hurriedly. The two of them transformed into those people, mingled together, and walked towards the light wall. Before they got close, the two of them smelled a pungent smell from a distance. It was the smell of burnt insect carcasses mixed with splashing poisonous blood, which was unbearable. The security guards they turned to were from the Nord Company, and they were obeying their commander's orders to support the armed forces of the nearby Yalai Company. The farther they went, the stronger the smell became, making it almost suffocating. After passing through the empty path, the two of them finally followed the Nord support force to the light wall. Under the light wall, gunpowder smoke was everywhere, green blood was everywhere, and the insect corpses were piled up like a mountain. Sometimes, the Zerg insects split into 2 and 3. They entered the mountain of corpses of comrades. Each one was exceptionally large, and the smallest was taller than an ordinary person's head. The Zergs opened their mouths wide, and when they charged, they would immediately attack the nearest meat. A large number of security forces had gathered here, most of them from the Law Enforcement Bureau and Public Security Bureau of the Yalai Company, and a few from other companies. Everyone had guns and various weapons in their hands. They shot the Zergs live. They were crazy. As soon as Chu Yao and Bai Yuejian arrived, they saw the Zerg, which always looked like a praying mantis, falling under the guns of many people. Someone had shot the Zerg in the brain. The Zerg struggled a few times before falling to the ground. Green blood flowed out from the ugly wound on its head. There seemed to be a blunt stone in the large wound. As soon as they saw the stone, both of them froze. Chu Yao's eyes lit up, and she looked at Bai Yuejian. Sister, I remember correctly. Bai Yuejian's eyes were also bright. Demon Pill. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 179 Demon Pill. Under Chu Yao's cover, Bai Yu quickly took out the demon pill from the Zerg's corpse, and the two of them moved quickly. Bai Yuejian held it in her hand and looked at it carefully. It was a deep red demon pill with swirling lines. That's right, this demon pill should be a low-grade level 4, but it's a bit small. A level 4 monster is equivalent to a cultivator who has achieved success in chi refining. It's fine, sister, the smaller the demon core, the bigger the demon core. Hi. The smaller the demon core, the smaller the demon head, the smaller the head, the smaller the skeleton, the smaller the core, the smaller the skeleton, the more flesh there is, the more monsters there are, the more monsters there are, the more monsters there are. Great demon pill. So the smaller the demon pill, the greater the demon pill. Bai Yuejian touched Chu Yao's forehead with concern, an expression, it's broken, this kid has a headache. Hey, don't mind these details. Chu Yao waved his hand excitedly, sister, since this is truly a demon pill, we will send it. The Zerg army is so large. And this army should have many people who cultivate demon pills like insects. They are suffering from aura deficiency in the Ling Yuan star world and cannot cultivate, but if they can accumulate a large number of demon pills, they can also provide assistance in their cultivation. This swarm of insects is a calamity for ordinary people, but it is good news for their monks. What are you doing? Don't fall. The Nord team captain in front shouted at the two. Got it. Chu Yao replied, and the two followed the team. The team rushed south along the light wall. Chu Yao and the others observed the Zergs along the way and found that these small Zergs were around level 4 to 7. Compared to the realm of a monk, it was the achievement of refining chi to the final stage of foundation establishment. Monsters above level 8, that is, monsters with golden cores, could be intercepted by the Yai Company's troops. On the way, the two kept an eye on the remains of insects, and when they found demonic medicine, they used some tricks to collect them. The matter of monsters cultivating pills was more vague. Generally, monsters above level 7 would have demonic medicine in their bodies. However, this did not mean that there were no low-level monsters, it was just that they had a low chance of turning into pills in their bodies. With such a large swarm of insects, no matter how small the possibility was, it could not be ignored, and the probability of obtaining a pill had reached a terrifying level. Just like now, they had not gone far, and there were 5 or 6 demonic medicines in Chu Yao's storage bag. She held the storage bag she had hidden under her clothes. Like an old hen guarding her chicks, it was very precious. She looked around cautiously, afraid that it would be stolen. "Look at you." Bai Yujian could not help but poke Chu Yao's head. He pulled his hand back as he thought of his current state. "Sister, do you think this is a demon pill? It's a spirit stone." Chu Yao's eyes lit up. The chaos of beasts that occurs once in a century in Feng Yuan is not that exciting. With these demon pills, we will not have to worry about souls in the future. It's a question of strength. If we save a few more thousand, we won't have to worry about the advancement of Jindan, and we can save even more and return to Feng Yuan later. At this point, Chu Yao's eyes darkened. After a while, he regained his strength in an instant. Although Feng Yuan Xiuji is gone, the universe is so vast. There must be a civilization of cultivation. Immortality is definitely the same as us. At that time, we will replace these demonic pills with spirit stones, and it will be another big sum of money. I understand, I understand. The smaller the demonic core, the more Bai Yuejian smiled meaningfully. "Hey, big sister, you can really accept me. Do you think Xiao Yet and I have been living in the mountains for the past 2 years? I forgot, if you don't tell me, tell me." The two were in a good mood, and among the tense and dignified crowd on the street, they were probably the most relaxed. However, they were at the back of the team, and no one paid attention. So Bai Yuejian told Chu Yao what he had seen and heard on the first continent in the past few years. When the conversation reached a lively point, Chu Yao laughed happily, and the person in front of him looked back at this stupid colleague with a puzzled face, thinking that this person was crazy afraid of insects. The target of this security team, which belonged to the Nord Company, was near the firewall to the southwest of the new capital, and the situation could be said to be the most critical. Thick smoke rose in the distance. The roar of insects and gunfire rang out, and the battlefield was within reach. Chu Yao's consciousness swept forward, and the relaxed expression disappeared slightly. She thought the situation here was urgent, but she didn't expect it to be this serious. There were several gaps in the light wall there. It was presumed that the robots that were projecting lasers in the sky were damaged by the flying Zerg, leaving a large gap in the light network. From those gaps, all kinds of Zergs continuously poured in, and they rushed into the streets and alleys of Zindu, fighting with various armed forces. A siege consisting of armored vehicles and barbed wire surrounded the place, but everyone knew that these were not very effective. The key was to wipe out these troublesome Zerg before breaking through. The two looked at each other, turned around, and left quietly after entering the battlefield, and found a relatively remote hiding place. "Let me take a look." Spiders, praying mantises, ivory beetles, giant winged centipedes. Chu Yao closed his eyes tightly. And her consciousness swept across the center of the battlefield. "Meow, except for the big spider, I've never seen one. These insects really look like monsters. If they look good, they wouldn't be called insects. 100 meters from the northeast corner, there's a chance. There's one at the shopping mall to the southeast." Chu Yao opened his eyes. "Separate? No, let's go together. I don't trust you. Sister, I have 3 who are over 100 years old. That won't work either. Have you recovered from your injuries?" Bai Yu was a decisive person, so the two of them rushed to the Zerg in the northeast corner alley together. When they got closer, the two of them found that the reason the Zerg didn't move was because it was eating. There was minced meat all over its body and a bloody smell came from its mouth. When it saw someone nearby, the black flesh and fur thorns all over its body exploded, and an unpleasant roar came from its throat. Ignoring the thorns protruding all over its body, it looked like a big black dog. Foundation building middle level 5. Bai Yujian was ready to fight. You are far away and I am close. Okay. Bai Yujian rushed forward. When he saw the dodging and formula in her, 4 shadow hands appeared all over her body. The white semicircular blade, the moon-shaped ring blade, rotated in midair, showing a touch of ferocity hidden beneath the softness. With a single wave of her hand, the 4 ring blades turned into Baxia and slashed at the black dogs and monsters with the sound of hunting wind. The sky was yin and yin, ghosts, and ghosts would take away souls, and the Ling Xian people picked up the moon with their soul rings. Gather the soul knives, pick up the moon ring. Seeing Bai Yuejian's housekeeping skills, Chu Yao was also impressed. Sister's moon-picking ring, it had been a long time. She felt a sense of emotion in her heart, but her movements were not slow. In order not to waste her soul power, she directly summoned the Zhuang sword from her danshan. The beautiful sword light burst out from her body, turning into a purple light that pierced through the sun and hit the heads of the beasts from other directions. I became popular in StarCraft. Chapter 180, the beginning of the Great War. With the cooperation of the two, the Zerg was easily dealt with. Although its strength was close to the middle level of Foundation establishment, it was ultimately unintelligent. At best it could be considered a rough-skinned and thick-skinned monster that couldn't even spit poison. If he wanted to attack these two people, even a mid-stage Foundation establishment monk would have to temporarily hide behind the edge. Unfortunately, there were no demonic pills in this Zerg's body. However, Chu Yao and Bai Yuejian did not give up. They rushed to another place and started hunting on the streets. This kind of hunting took an entire day, and Chu Yao and Bai Yuejian's bodies traveled between the various battlefields, cutting off the heads of those lone insects one by one. With their secret help, the pressure from the front was quickly reduced, and the work of the various companies' security teams was much easier. Although I don't know what happened, no one paid much attention to it. If there were one less Zerg, it would be good to have less pressure. It was almost dusk. The battles with the Zerg inside and outside the light wall continued. Chu Yao and Bai Yuejian, who had returned with a full bag of supplies, went back to Princess Yet and started counting the results of the day. The two sat facing each other in the dark underground room. A row of bead-like demonic pills were arranged. They were neatly arranged on the ground in front of them, and the restless monster energy surged out like a mist of light, which was a hidden echo of the monster power contained within. 31. Chu Yao licked her lips excitedly. This was just one day. If they continued to hunt efficiently, it would be enough to find all the demonic pills needed to refine the pills in a short period of time. And this was the number the two of them worked together on. If Chu Yao recovered from his injuries, the two of them would work separately, and the efficiency would be even higher. Now, Chu Yao's view of this Zerg swarm had completely changed, and she also hoped that the Yalai company could fight slowly so that they would have a chance to hunt down the Zerg. 24 pills for level 4, 5 for level 5, 1 for level 6, and 1 for level 7. Bai Yujian silently sensed the quality of these demonic pills with his spiritual sense. The spirit power content is quite sufficient, but there are quite a few impurities. It seems that they need to be refined before they can be used. However, this is definitely a great opportunity. The sparkle in Chu Yao's eyes never stopped. Sister, why don't we go to the battlefield outside? If we can take advantage of it, we can get a Yuanying level demon pill. Don't kill you. Bai Yuejian immediately poured cold water on Chu Yao. Don't forget the 7th level Zerg you found this afternoon. If you don't pick up a weapon, even if the two of us work together, it will be quite difficult. These Zergs can be found everywhere outside the light barrier. If you want a demon pill, you have to die to get it. Hey, I'm just making a suggestion, tisk tisk. If we can still cultivate nascent soul, why should we be afraid of the giant Zergs? Not yet? Don't you have one now? Hurry up and don't rush. Bai Yuejian picked up a 7th level demon pill and looked at it for a while, then let it go. He turned back. You keep these demon pills first. It's inconvenient for me to keep it. It was then that Chu Yao remembered that his eldest sister didn't have a storage bag yet. Oh, it's a pity that there are neither space stones nor spirit silk on this distant spiritual source star, otherwise the storage bag might be sold wholesale. It's okay, it's not a big deal. There's always the future. I'll go up first, you treat your wounds to rest assured, and we'll talk about tomorrow. Under the silent and dark sky, a patch of silver-white flight paths hung upside down in the Milky Way. That was the trace of the Yalai Company's warships. Against the background of the universe, this magnificent and majestic division of steel was also inconspicuous, like a swarm of moths crossing a pond, living and dying day and night without knowing where they came from. The early warning ship was in front, the supply ship was behind, and the main ship was in the middle, surrounded by countless types of combat ships, and they were heading towards the Spirit Source star at the same speed. The mothership in the middle was particularly large, its body huge, like the creation of a god. The dim light on the ship made it seem like there were eyes all over its body, ignoring everything in the world with an indifferent attitude. On the top floor of the mothership, in the cockpit that was half the size of a football field, a silver-haired man wearing a monocle was lifting the coffee in his cup with satisfaction and putting it in his mouth. He took a sip and quirked his eyebrows slightly as if there was something wrong with the taste. He was about to blame the secretary who was busy not far away, but the latter came to talk to him first. Chairman K. On the secretary's raised arm, a translucent blue screen moved along with her body. It was a portable computer that looked like a watch on her wrist. The outpost reported that an unknown fleet was found in the sea area of the Qinghai Galaxy. The distance between the opponent and our fleet is about 137 stars. 137 is very close. Chairman K said inadvertently. The cup on the side table. He reached out and smashed the screen in front of the secretary, and this appeared before his eyes. Chairman K supported the monocle on the bridge of his nose and read the report carefully. It really is a fleet. Can you confirm the target and identity of the other party? The outpost has sent a contact message, but there has been no response. But from the direction of the flight path, it can be inferred that the destination of the opponent is the origin star of the soul. Oh! Kessel narrowed his eyes. Interesting. At this juncture of chaos in the world, are there still people who want to cause trouble for Yuri? As soon as the secretary finished speaking, one of the staff members quickly put on the same laptop. Chairman K, this is the satellite observation report from Clark, and the identity of this fleet has been confirmed. Without saying anything more, Chairman K had already seen the identities of these people from the high-precision observation photographs. It's hard to forget the flashy style of the fleet. Of course, they are the dark guys from Steel Dome. Chairman K stood up and patted his wrinkled suit. Start the galaxy communication with Old Man Bayer. I want to talk to him. Oh, don't forget to thank Mr. Mo from the Chamber of Commerce. Yari will remember their kindness. Understood. After a few seconds, a black square mirror appeared in front of Chairman K. He walked in without fear and came to the hardcover office. The yellow light illuminated the intricately patterned carpet and the mahogany bookshelf, and the 2 or 3 antiques displayed around the table revealed a sense of elegance. Chairman K sat down on the leather sofa behind the table. After a while, the center of the room was lit for a moment, and the image of an old man appeared. The old man was hunched over, holding a cane in one hand, and looked very small. The wrinkles on his face were distorted and crowded, and the eyes could barely see the changes in the old face. Old Bayer. Chairman K went straight to the point and asked in a deep voice, "What do you mean?" It seemed that the link was delayed, and it took Bayer 7 or 8 seconds to reply. What do I mean? What do you think, K-Yun? What was disproportionate to his figure was that Bayer's voice was very loud, like a middle-aged man speaking. I don't have time to play guessing with you. K-Yun's face was displeased. Send your fleet back immediately. Ling Yuan Star is the private property of Yalai Company. Without my permission, your Steel Dome can't even think about interfering. Private property, haha, never mind. The ownership will change soon. You Steel Dome are becoming more and more secretive. K-Yun laughed angrily. Do you know what you are doing, or do you want to start a war with the entire alliance? Don't you know that Steel Dome's behavior violates the agreement between the stars? Alliance. Bayer sneered. Boy K, your news is behind the times. The alliance has been swept away for a long time. I was swept away by those bugs. From today onwards, the relationship between heaven and man has become history. Bayer raised the crutch in his hand and tapped it hard on the ground. A crisp knocking sound echoed in the office. Kayun was silent for a moment. I don't understand what nonsense you're talking about. Nonsense? Don't you know if you've read the news? Bayer's tone was tinged with teasing. No matter what happens, order your fleet to return immediately. Don't think that Yalai will bully you easily. There is no time to build a new tomb for you. Will this be a war? Kayun's face was expressionless. Afraid, you will regret it, old man. Then let's see which of us will regret it first. The communication was interrupted, and the big Kayun was the only one left in his office. He turned around, and the vast sea of stars outside the window was reflected in his calm eyes. After the flying saucer had taken over the entire sect, I became popular in the stars, the new metropolis, and the end.